Okay, welcome everybody to the fifth and final day of Pollinator Week and our Pollinator Week webinar series here hosted by Quail Forever in Arkansas. Today we have Ciera Rhodes joining us. She will be talking to you all about programs available for pollinators and pollinator habitat. So just want to say thank you to everybody that's joining us here on the Zoom meeting. If you're interested, you can still go in and register and join us here, or we're also live streaming right now to our Quail Forever in Arkansas Facebook page, so you can join us there as well. And as you heard, this webinar is being recorded, and we will also get this posted on our YouTube channel at Quail Forever Arkansas, and then we'll share that post on Facebook as well. As we're going along, if you have any questions that pop up, please feel free to type those into the chat box here. I'll send a message out so everybody can find that. Or if you're listening to us on Facebook Live, feel free to type any questions that you have in the comments section on there. And as we wrap up the webinar today, I will read those questions off, and Ciera will be able to answer those for you. And hopefully we can get everything answered. And if not, we can reach out to you later and make sure we get the help you need. So with that, Ciera, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Like Ryan said, my name is Ciera Rhodes, and I'm a farm bill biologist up in Northeast Arkansas. I cover Randolph, Sharp, and Fulton County, and today I'm going to be talking to you about programs available for pollinators. So some of the assistance programs that we have available are through the Arkansas Department of Agriculture Forestry Division. Used to be the Arkansas Forestry Commission. And then some of the competitive programs that we have available that have cost share available is through the Natural Resources Conservation Service, or NRCS, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, Farm Services Agency, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So the Forest Stewardship Program is not a cost share program. It is a program that does allow you, though, to get a management plan for free from your local forester or biologist. It does have a 10-acre forest minimum, and I was talking to the forester the other day, and she did say to make sure you put timber or wildlife as a primary or secondary objective in order to get like a good detailed plan. And these plans are good for 10 years. And some of the considerations that they have are soil, water, timber, obviously wildlife, and recreation. And some of the benefits of having a really good forest stewardship program and management plan written for you is that if you open up some of your timber and manage it with prescribed fire, you will have a lot of native forbs and wildflowers, native forbs or wildflowers, and native grasses coming up in your forest floor that can benefit pollinators. So the next program I'd like to talk about is some of the Farm Bill conservation programs and available practices that are offered through the Natural Resource Conservation Service and the Farm Services Agency that help provide wildlife and pollinator habitat. I'll focus on two NRCS programs, EQIP and CSP, and then Farm Services Agency's CRP program. So the first one again is EQIP. This program, or Environmental Quality Incentives Program, up in my area, this is probably the biggest program that I deal with. In other areas of the state, some CSP tends to be a little more prevalent. The Wildlife Habitat Incentives Program, or WIP, it's an old program that may be what some people have heard of in the past, but that's been folded into this EQIP program. So just a little info, this is an NRCS, what we consider to be a starter program. It is a competitive program, so you're not guaranteed to be funded or anything, but it is ranked based on national, state, and local priorities, and it is a 5-year contract. Some of the fund pools that are available within this EQIP program that I'm talking about, one of them is Working Lands for Wildlife, so there are certain counties across the state that are eligible for this extra fund pool. It is a part of EQIP, and Working Lands for Wildlife is based on focal areas across the state. So basically, they're trying to target their money to areas that are already doing good quail habitat restoration, and they're trying to focus their money within 5 miles of those areas. Another program that's still tied to EQIP is called the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. It is a partnership between NRCS and Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. Again, this is just another fund pool that's available for people to try and get cost share assistance for pollinator and wildlife habitat. This one is 100% cost share, so that's very beneficial to landowners. And again, this is based on quail focal areas as well within those 5 miles of those focal areas. This specific RCVP that we have going on right now for quail is called the Northern Quail Project, and so it's only like I think it's like the first top two counties across the state that are eligible for this. But if you're interested and have any questions, feel free to reach out to your local NRCS office or your Quail Forever biologist, and they'll be able to help you out. So some of the common practices that we do through some of these programs, I'm sure that the other biologists this week have covered these probably multiple times in their webinars this week, but the first one that I deal with a lot is conservation cover. So there's native warm season grass option, pollinator option, and monarch option. I forgot to list here, obviously. But the pollinator one is my favorite because it provides the opportunity for you to have a very diverse seed mix that is beneficial for both pollinators and quail, and obviously a plethora of other wildlife as well. Forest stand improvement is another common practice. Again, this is not like a commercial thinning where you're going in and taking the trees out and getting paid for it through like a logger or something. This is where NRCS will help pay to thin out undesirable trees, something that may not sell well or is too small or is damaged or things like that. But it really focuses on opening up your canopy to let a lot more sunlight reach that forest floor, and will then allow a lot of those native forbs and grasses to come up to allow a lot more foraging and nesting habitat. Fire breaks is another one, or sorry, prescribed burning. Obviously, a lot of landowners are interested in this, and to me, this is probably the best practice that we offer. If a landowner was to do nothing else besides burn, that would be my top recommendation. But this, in conjunction with everything else, makes your property just fantastic for pollinator habitat. Again, there's fire breaks involved that to help utilize prescribed burning. There's also a native grazing option where this is great for pollinators, where at least in my area, we have a lot of pastures that are in 100% fescue, maybe some clover mixed in or something. But with this native grazing option, one, it's great for cattle because you'll increase your warm season foraging capabilities, but you'll also, these seed mixes that we're planting for this native grazing include native warm season grasses, as well as lots of wildflowers or forbs, which those are a lot of the habitat that you need for a lot of pollinators. And just some others include stream bank stabilization, wetland restoration, and upland or wetland wildlife habitat management. So the Conservation Stewardship Program, CSP, is an NRCS program that rewards those landowners with good conservation on the ground through the use of enhancements. And CSP offers a wide range of quote unquote enhancements that address resource concerns, including fish, wildlife, and pollinator habitat. So it is a 5-year contract. And like I said earlier, it does reward good conservation. So if you are already doing good management on your property, you will have a better chance of getting into this program. It does encourage additional conservation. So these enhancements that I was talking about, it's kind of taking the management that you're already doing and taking it to the next level. But they do have enhancements for pollinator habitat, for opening up your woods more, for burning, things like that. It is helpful to show that you have worked with other programs. So like I said earlier, EQIP's a big program in my area. So this is kind of the program that a lot of our landowners go into after they've completed an EQIP contract. But it's not required though. There are other parts of the state where CSP is more prevalent. So the Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of this one. It's probably the one that's most talked about. It's a land conservation program administered by the Farm Services Agency, or FSA. In exchange for a yearly rental payment, farmers enrolled in the program agree to remove environmentally sensitive land from agricultural production and plant species that will improve environmental health and quality. The long-term goal of this program is to reestablish valuable land cover to help improve water quality, prevent soil erosion, and reduce loss of wildlife habitat. So it is, like I said earlier, administered through the Farm Services Agency, or FSA. It is a 10 or 15-year contract, and they do require a cropping history. So you can contact FSA in order to get more information on specifically what that means. A lot of the places that you will see CRP and where it is eligible is on cropland and in marginal pasture. And like I mentioned earlier, the payments for this include a yearly soil rental rate and a one-time cost share assistance to help establish the practices that you might be doing, such as maybe a pollinator habitat or something like that. So some of the CRP initiatives that are going on across the United States are listed here. The ones that would probably be more likely to focus on good pollinator habitat involve the Pollinator Habitat Initiative and the Upland Bird Habitat Initiative. So I just wanted to show an example. There are many practices available through our CRP, but some that are very beneficial for providing habitat for pollinators and for quail as well. The first is CP33, or habitat buffers for upland birds. CP33 requires establishment of native herbaceous buffers along row crop field margins, and the buffers are enrolled in 10-year contracts, and they may be planted to native warm season grasses, native forbs or wildflowers, and legume mixes. As you can see in this picture, this is going to provide fantastic pollinator habitat in areas that may have been planted in Bermuda or something along a ditch bank before this. So imagine how much habitat we could have if we could have lots more acres enrolled in this rather than either bare ground or planted in a non-native introduced grass. Another option is CP42, or pollinator habitat. The goal of this one is to establish habitats to support a diversity of pollinator species, and it does create great brood habitat for quail as well. These seed mixes are kind of picky as to what they need. You do need a minimum of 9 species, but as you heard in the webinar on, I believe, Wednesday about creating a good seed mix, you definitely want a lot more species than that in a mix. At least 3 species shall have their primary onset of blooming during each period. So you want some during the spring, some during the summer, and some during the fall. And these seed mixes won't include any more than 25% native grasses based on pure live seeds per square foot. So that means you'll have a lot more potential for native forbs coming up rather than native grasses taking over. So kind of how this whole system works and kind of the process you need to go through in order to make it to a contract. The first thing you would need to do is to go register your farm at Farm Services Agency, or FSA. These offices are generally beside the NRCS office, but not always. And next you would need to go to the NRCS office and fill out an application. Or if it's CRP, you would go to the FSA office. And the application is, at least for EQIP, and CSP are fairly simple. It's generally just some like personal information and maybe a few questions. They don't generally take any more than about 10 minutes to complete. And after that, we would come out and complete a site visit. And during the site visit, basically what we do is ride around the property or walk around the property and look and see what kind of habitat you have, where some areas you might could improve upon. And we'll just basically be making recommendations as we go. And then at the end of the site visit, we can come up with a map to determine like where you want which practices and which ones you're willing to do, kind of thing. Like you don't have to do every one that the biologist recommends, but you know, this is a voluntary program kind of thing. And then next is ranking. So this is not something you do. This is something that the Quail Forever biologist or the NRCS offices would be completing. And it certain times a year, it has changed over the last few years. Used to, it was in the fall. This year it's been in the spring because of the delay of the new farm bill. So I'm not really sure what time of year it'll be next year, but after all the rankings done, they'll start at the top, and whoever has the highest score, they'll fund down until they run out of money, basically. And then when you find out whether you're funded or not, if you are funded, then you'll come back in and go through the process of going through the practice schedule and the specifications of each practice, and then sign the contract. So in order to apply for EQIP and CSP, same thing I mentioned before, you register your farm at FSA and you go to your local NRCS office to fill out your application. There are some other forms that they'll need in order to determine eligibility that are listed here. These are usually like a check mark and a signature, so they're not super long or complicated. So don't be scared just because they're, you know, acronyms and numbers on this slide. For CRP, it'd be a little bit different. You would need to visit with FSA, Farm Services Agency, and they'll be able to go over the guidelines with you, and then you can register your farm. And then NRCS will, or Quail Forever biologist will be the one to make the site visit in order to determine eligibility. And then if they say you are eligible, then you'll be able to go back to the FSA office and fill out the application. So next to last program I'd like to talk about is called Acres for Wildlife. And this one is through Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. I know it says the program emphasis is on quail, wild turkeys, rabbits, and grass and songbirds. But as we all know, if we create great pollinator habitat, it also is very beneficial for all of these species as well. It is a 5-year contract, and it is also a competitive program, just like the NRCS programs were. So your application would be ranked by either a private lands biologist with Game and Fish or a Quail Forever biologist. But you do get a management plan that would walk you through exactly what you need to do and any additional things you might want to do on your property that may not be covered under this cost share. So the two practices that are available through this program is herbicide application and native establishment. The first practice is basically usually to eradicate fescue or Bermuda or Bahia in pastures. They do have herbicide available for other exotic non-native species that are maybe encroaching in some of your pastures or fallow fields or something. So I use it a lot for Sericea lespedeza, which is really bad up in my neck of the woods. Also Johnson grass, things like that. They also provide that native warm season grass and forb mix for the landowner. You must plant at least a 5-acre block of the natives. So you can't do it in smaller blocks, and it has to be all contiguous. Livestock must be excluded from the contracted acres for the 5-year period, but after that, they can be managed properly with livestock. One great thing about this program is that you're not out any money with this one. Like, you're not responsible for going and buying the herbicide or the seed mixes. Game and Fish does provide this to the landowner, so that's one of the great benefits of this program. Game and Fish does have equipment for loan. Just wanted to make everyone aware. So if you are trying to establish some pollinator habitat and don't have the equipment for it, this would be a great resource to reach out to. They have no-till drills, as pictured in the bottom left. They have Vicon seeders. As you can see in the top right, kind of that cone-looking seeder on the back of the tractor. Personally, that's my favorite, but I also have a lot of rocks up here. So the no-till drill doesn't work as well. ATV native grass seeders are another option. They also have rollers and sprayers available for use as well. In order to get to any of these, you basically just need to contact your local private lands biologist with Game and Fish, and they'll be able to tell you the availability of these things. And if Game and Fish doesn't have available, or maybe there's a really long wait list or something, there is equipment for loan or for rent, sorry, from your local conservation districts. So you could probably contact your local NRCS offices as well. And the last program is Partners for Fish and Wildlife. This program is through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It is a 10-year contract, and some of the programs or some of the practices that they have available include prescribed fire, planting of natives, stream bank restoration, and native grazing as well. So all of these things would obviously be great for pollinator habitat. And if you are interested in Partners for Fish and Wildlife, they do kind of focus on areas where there happen to be like threatened and endangered species. And if your project seems to be helping that species directly, then there's a lot more, you're a lot more likely of getting funded. If you are interested, feel free to reach out to a Quail Forever biologist, and we will put you in contact with the correct person. And with that, here is the map showing all of our contact information. So I'm the one up in the light blue in Randolph, Sharp, and Fulton, up in the north border. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Ciera, for that informative presentation. Very much appreciated. So that was a lot of information, and I'm sure there's some questions out there from folks. I just typed something else into the chat box, but you can type questions into the chat box there for anybody that's in the Zoom meeting. Or on a Facebook live stream, you can ask us questions there in the comments, and I will get them answered as well. Just for a little bit more information, Ciera, can you go into a little bit more detail briefly on what the difference is in the two main NRCS programs, basically like EQIP and its similar programs versus CSP?
Yeah. So like I mentioned in the presentation, like EQIP is kind of a starter program. So it would only be implementing practices is what we call them. So that may be the conservation cover, forest stand improvement, prescribed burning fire breaks, things like that. So that would be a one-time payment to get to install those practices, which basically kind of gets management started on your property. For CSP or Conservation Stewardship Program, to me, I kind of think of it as like the next step or the next level after EQIP. So if you are already doing management on your property or have been through EQIP, so you started management through a program or doing your own, then CSP is kind of the program that you would want to look at, because they use enhancements rather than practices in order to kind of, like I said, like what they say, enhance kind of the management that you're already doing. And they are also, I believe, Austin, you might want to speak on this, a one-time payment for the enhancements, if I'm correct.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yep. So those enhancements get a one-time payment for completing that enhancement during your contract. But the other, and excuse me if you mentioned this, but the other main difference is that there's still an annual base payment calculated with CSP. So for that 5-year contract, you're getting an annual payment as well, plus each year, whatever those enhancement payments are for the enhancements that you complete that year. Whereas EQIP's just straight up paying you for the practices that you complete any given time you complete them. Okay, Leslie had a question. What's the minimum acreage for participating in a cost share program?
There's technically no minimum acreage for any of the programs. There are minimum acreages for some of the practices, but they're generally very small. I've dealt with landowners anywhere from 5 acres to 1,000 acres. So contact us if you got any questions, and we'd be happy to talk with you about what would be best on your specific property, and we can kind of go from there and come up with a plan.
Okay, the next question. Kelly asks, if someone applies for an NRCS program and does not get approved, do they have to reapply next year to be considered?
No, so after they have obligated all the funds, then they will end up sending out a letter to all the people who are enrolled this year that say didn't get funded, and it'll have little check boxes. It's really easy to fill out. They'll have little check boxes on it that say, I don't want to sign up again, so you can take me out, or I want to sign up again and keep it the same, or I want to sign up again and I'd like to change some things. And then those letters get mailed back to the NRCS office, and we go through those and see who we need to contact and who we need to roll over and whose application we need to cancel.
Okay. Sam asks just for a quick synopsis of how do I apply for these programs?
Yeah. So depending on which program you're talking about, but so EQIP and CSP, let's just go with those, I guess. Those are the most common. First thing you would need to do is go to the FSA office and fill out or register your farm. The only thing you'll need for this is a copy of your deed, which you can get from your local courthouse. The next thing you would need to do is to go to your NRCS office and fill out an application. And if you're not sure which program fits you best, I know I said in the presentation that you fill out the application, then we do the site visit. I actually do those opposite a lot of times, where a landowner's interested, but they don't really know which program they're interested in or which one fits them the best. So we'll do the site visit first and kind of get a good feel for the property and what the landowner's objectives are. And then we'll talk about which program fits them. And then they go to the NRCS office and fill out the application for that specific program. There are, like I said, the application takes usually less than 10 minutes to complete, super easy. There are some other like eligibility forms that they'll probably have you fill out while you're there. Again, they're not hard to fill out. And then after the application, you're set. You're in the runnings to make it to ranking. And then after ranking is when you'll find out if you're funded or not. And you can sign up at any time of year, by the way, for EQIP and CSP.
Yep, and the other major program that we use here in the state, the Acreage Wildlife Program, it's as simple as contacting your local pharmabiologist or your local game and fish private lands biologist and visiting with them. If you're interested in that program or what it has to offer, you just sign up right through them. Okay. Kelly asked, am I eligible for programs if I only lease the property?
Yes, you still have to have the farm registered through FSA, and they will sign you up as an operator instead of the owner. And some of the paperwork that you do have to have whenever you go to fill out the application is like a letter or some sort of form saying that the owner says it's okay for you to sign up for this contract for 5 years.
Okay. Sam asked a follow-up question about where is the office location, and I'll just answer that real quick. So Sam, it depends. So almost every county in the state of Arkansas has an NRCS office, and if that particular county that you're in doesn't, one of the neighboring counties cover it. So you can very simply, just Google Arkansas NRCS, and then on their main website, there's a section where you can find your local office, and you can find the office in your county. Or even if you just Google, let's say Pulaski County NRCS office, a lot of times if you do that, it'll pull it up and send you to the right location. Or
And
you can
usually,
always contact one of our biologists. Ciera has her information here on this page that we're on. But if you go back and look at the recording of this webinar, she's got a map that shows all the locations and contact info for all of our other biologists too. So if you find somebody that covers your county that you're in, they can certainly help you out and get you pointed in the right direction.
I did want to point out, sometimes they're called USDA service centers when you Google them, just FYI.
Yep. And sometimes they might be listed as a conservation district office too. So Leslie asked a question. If I get funded through a government program, do I have to allow hunting on my property?
No. This program is, these programs are just specifically set up, or the ones I talked about today, are just specifically set up for you to better the habitat on your property. There are programs available that I believe where you can sign up to allow people to hunt on your property, but that does not involve any of the programs that I spoke about today.
Okay, that was all the questions that I had at the moment. We'll give folks a minute or two to type in any follow-ups. Oh, here's one more question. But yeah, so if there's any more questions from anybody, go ahead and get them typed in the chat box or in the comment section, and we'll get those answered. One more question. Can I still get advice from a biologist if I don't want to enroll in a program? Say if
Of
I
course.
pay for it myself.
Do what?
Say, and then they say if I just wanted to pay for it myself.
Yeah, of course. So we're here for technical advice. So even if you're not interested in any of the programs and you want advice from a biologist to come out and take a look, we'd be more than happy to do that. Again, you can look back at the slide that has all of our information on it, or contact me and I can get you to the right person. And we'd be happy to come out and take a look, give you some technical advice and recommendations. And we also write management plans too for your property, even if you're not signed up for any programs.
Okay, I'll give everybody another second or two to type in any final questions. Okay, there's one more question came in. How much does it cost for a site visit or to get this assistance?
Site visits are completely free, and for us to come out and take a look, again, we're a completely free service. Same thing as with game and fish biologists, or the foresters through the Division of Forestry as well.
Okay, one second. Let me ask for clarification on a question here. Or Sam, can you clarify what you're asking in that last question you typed in? As we're waiting on that, see if anybody else has any follow-up questions. So Ciera, are there any other questions that we maybe haven't gotten today that you've heard quite a bit from landowners or folks that you've talked to in the past?
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Okay, so I think Sam was asking if they can apply. I think they're asking how they can apply if they don't live in Arkansas, but maybe they have land in Arkansas. So can they apply through the mail or online, or how does that process work?
Yeah, I have a ton of landowners who don't live here in the state and live elsewhere, but have land here. So they can email you the application form, and then you can fill it out by hand, and then you can email it back, but we also have to have the original form mailed, like snail mailed back to us as well. And that's generally how a lot of people do it. Or if you don't have email or something like that, they can just mail you the application as well. I don't believe there's a spot where you can just apply online that I'm aware of.
I do know once folks have their information set up within the system, there is a new conservation client gateway where there is a method for us to be able to do signatures and stuff virtually online. But that's, again, once we kind of get things set up and once we have all your information in the system. Definitely for initial and for getting everything initially rolling, we'll have to actually get some paper copies signed. But again, as she said, those can be emailed to you and you can print them out and sign them and mail them back. Well, all right. I think that was the end of the questions that I saw. Ciera, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation today. I want to thank everybody for joining us on the Zoom webinar, and for those that are watching on our Facebook live stream. Thank you all for tuning in this entire week, and I hope you enjoyed our webinar series covering every aspect of pollinator habitat, from why it's important, how we do it, making seed mixes, putting it on the ground, and then our final presentation here today about cost share programs to help us do these practices. So again, hope everybody enjoyed it. Please look for the recording of this webinar. We'll have this posted on our Facebook page shortly, and then it will get posted this afternoon as well on our YouTube channel. You can find it there. And with that, we will sign off. Again, thank you, Ciera. Thank you, everybody. Hope you all have a great rest of the week.
Happy Pollinator Week.